President Muhammadu Buhari had on Thursday, July the 28th, 2022, directed the Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs to take over from the Federal Ministry of Environment the supervisory role on the United Nations-backed cleanup of Ogoni land in Rivers State.
Prepared to give all the support required for project delivery.
The directive was conveyed through the Minister of Transportation, Mozo Jaji Sambo, at a retreat by the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. But a subsequent statement by the Ministry of Environment suggesting that it is still in charge of the project because its role is the creation of the law has left stakeholders in the area confused.
Why the drag? Why the tussle over this? And we rewind back. While this project has been under the Ministry of Environment, there have been a very high turnover of ministers in that environment. 6 ministers. No other ministry in this country has had those high turnover than the Ministry of Environment, while that supervises this project.
The project, launched in June 2016, has been greeted with criticism over a slow pace of implementation, and the former president of the Movement for the Survival of Ogoni People, MOSOP, alleges that the political class is only concerned about feasting on the $1 billion budget for the exercise, which calls for presidential intervention.
Why is the international agencies trying to run away from being associated with the project? I think those should come to the public domain, instead of allowing people, in my view, to struggle about how to control the budget.
Also seeking clarification on the issue are the youths who have vowed to resist the transfer of responsibilities to the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, whom they accuse of incompetence.
As youth groups and responsible youth organizations representing the interests of the people has come out to say that anything that we give birth to high prep being transferred to a corrupt ministry like NDDC will be summarily and vehemently resisted by all and sundry as far as Ogoni land is concerned.
They are also using the opportunity to demand the immediate fixing of the Eleme axis of the East-West Road, which leads to the federal oil and gas infrastructure in their territory, or be ready for a protest with unionists in critical economic sector.
And now for more on the cleanup of the Ogoni land, the former president, Movement for Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP, Mr. Ledo Mite, joins us from the United Kingdom. Thank you for joining us on News Across Nigeria.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
What's your consideration on the federal government's directive to the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs to take over the cleanup from the Ministry of Environment and the Environment Ministry's insistence on status quo based on their press release?
Well, our concern, and particularly my concern, has been that if you look at the cleanup, there have been complaints by communities that despite so much money that has been spent, the communities have never had an impact on the cleanup. Now, the ministry, the high prep, that is where the agency responsible for the cleanup has been domiciled under the Ministry of Environment, Federal Ministry of Environment. If you look through, they've had 6 ministers in this bit of time. No ministry in the federal government has had this high turnover of ministries. And you now find a situation that 2 ministries seem to be struggling over the control of this project. Now, what that tells you is that perhaps there's something that is out there that is driving this struggle for control and therefore its budget. And clearly, when you look at it, the last year's budget of high prep was about $35 million. Now, for half of this year, their budget that came out is about $300 million. So you see how the budget has gone up. And you now look at the situation. When I read the statement by the Ministry of Environment on this issue, it stated that the president has also directed the comprehensive audit of the expenditures of high prep. And that now brings to mind what has happened to NDDC when there were serious mind-boggling allegations of corrupt practices. What did we get? They said there's a forensic audit that has been never ending. And which was, for me, an excuse for business as usual. So
Let's
we
take
do
you.
not think.
Okay. Go on, please.
We do not think that this is what should happen to a project that is about lives of people. And this should not be something driven that tells me that perhaps all these sort of mind-boggling exponential increase in the budget for this remaining part of the year might not be unconnected with election expenses. And I'm frightened at the prospect that perhaps that might be the reason why there's a struggle over control of IPREP.
Now, let's take you back for a moment to 2016 when the cleanup was flagged off in the first place by the federal government. From 2016 till now, 2022, what's your assessment of performance?
I think my assessment, and what I'm speaking as, about an assessment, I come from a community that, produces, when the production was on, we produced about 60 to 70% of the oil in Ogoni. And if I speak, I'm speaking as someone who will have seen what is happening. There's no impact. We do not see anything like any cleanup at all in that area. What we have seen is that they are digging places. Some of the areas that you see people are excavating and all that are areas that the pollution has been so historical in the sense that even by natural forces, the vegetation has started to grow back. And then the areas that you see the pollution, nothing has been touched. And people are drinking polluted water, fishing in polluted water. The UNEP report clearly said that people should not fish in these areas, nor should they be allowed to drink or bathe in this water. And so I do not see the impact of that when you hear the amount of money that has been said to have been spent and is about to be spent, and then the people do not see the impact. I get worried that we are now in for another of this business as usual.
Now, in one interview, prequel to this one, you said, and I quote, "Cleanup is a cover-up." What did you mean?
Well, what I mean, and I still stand by it, I feel that what we have seen has not been a cleanup, it has been a cover-up. It has been a cover-up of the pollution. We see people digging the earth and pouring it over things. We have never seen anywhere that they say, look, this is what has happened. This is the cleanup process. The people are not even aware of the processes that you've been in cleanup. When you have a cleanup, then you will be able to now see that this is where they have cleaned, this is where they have not cleaned, and this is what has happened. And so if this is just an excuse for this sort of what has happened, we have complained about opaque contracting processes, which has been dominated from the up. And this appears to be a pattern, I must say, because you see, anything about the Niger Delta, if you look at the NDDC, you cannot see what has happened, at least since this administration started, that NDDC has done. If you look at the East-West Road, which is the major road that is there, nothing has happened. It appears that what happens is that some money that is supposed to be for the development of the Niger Delta is allowed to just be taken away. You give it from one hand and take it from the other. And so it appears to be a pattern when it comes to the Niger Delta, that people do not, or the government do not want to do things. They just want to be an avenue. And I remember some time ago, someone has told me that the NDDC, for instance, that it was set up basically to empower, to use that word, supporters of those of the presidency, and appears to be what these processes go through. So whether it's IPREP, whether it's NDDC, whether it's the East-West Road, you still see that pattern. And I'm so worried that this is what is going on.
We do hope that this has a resolution. There seems to be no easy fix to this, but we do hope that the authorities are mindful of the views of individuals such as yourself and the people of Ogoni land. Thank you, Mr. Ledom Mite, the former president of the Movement for the Survival of Ogoni People, MUSUP, joining us on News Across Nigeria from the UK.
Thank you.